seizing and controlling your money. We actually hear that a lot, saying that it's going to happen, like conspiracy kind of thing. Common sense approach is saying it's already happening and it's right in front of you and you've missed it. Jump in some ways that the middle class is pretty much gone, and they're dismantling as we speak. A sobering video, but one with common sense that I think we just need to pay attention to, because they've taken your money and they're still taking your money and you can't do anything about it. Video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. You can see we're under the porch again. Hopefully the lighting is okay, but it is flooding out there. And hey, that's okay, but not good for trying to film. So welcome to our channel today. If you're new to our channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Just remember, we're giving a 200,000 subscriber giveaway. It's thousands of dollars worth of gifts. It's about 15 to 20 gifts that we're going to be giving away, and we can't wait to just say thank you and give them to one of our lucky subscribers. So subscribe so you can be entered into that giveaway. Now let's jump into the video. Now this is a common sense approach and a very sobering thought to the fact that your money is no longer your money and it's going to be leaving you. Now it's already happening right in front of your nose. The question is, do you see it? And then what can you do to control it? There's a war against the middle class. The middle class is pretty much losing ground. It's sad because it's showing that there's just going to be two different groups of folks. And when I say that, people kind of cringe at me and think, oh, you tinfoil hat wearer. It's not that. Let's go through some ways that we can see that the middle class is being dismantled right before your eyes, and also how the fact that your money is not your money because they're seizing it and taking it right before your eyes. So number one, inflation. Think about it for a second. If they're controlling the dollar and the government is now spending too many dollars, then we print more dollars because of the issues that our government has caused. That makes inflation. So there's few goods for so many dollars. So inflation happens. Now we always see a gradual inflation every year. The sad thing is that the government wants an inflation every year, which means you're already getting a 2 or 3% tax on your money every year. You're losing 2 to 3% every year. So therefore, if you're not getting a raise of 2 or 3% per year, you're already losing your money. But beside that, if inflation's at 7 and 8, 9 and 10% and even over that, the inflation is caused only by the government printing more money. The more money we print, the more inflation we have. This was done by Republicans and Democrats. This is not a one-party situation. All of a sudden, we stimulate the economy. Stimulating the economy should be by the people going into the marketplace and buying goods themselves and using their own money. When we stimulate it, and they start putting excess money into the market, it's going to cause too many dollars to chase too few goods. Therefore, inflation. So again, I've made a comment about your money before. Are you getting an 8 to 10% raise on your money a year? No. Think about it. That's a way that they're taking your money because it's costing you more to buy the same goods that you bought last year for what you would think now is a discounted rate. However, that discounted rate was raising at least 2% per year because that's what the Fed wants. They want a 2% gradual inflation rate every year. So you lost money every year, on top of now the influx of a heavier inflation. You've lost even more money. Do you have more money than you had last year? Do you have more money than you had the year before? Do you have more money at the end of the month than you did? That's one way your money is no longer in your hands. And so then what do people do? When they don't have the funds to buy certain things, they borrow more money. They use credit cards. There's more credit card use now. Our credit card debt as consumers is higher than it's ever been in history. Not only percentages, by money too. So if we're putting ourselves in more debt, guess what? The interest rate is raising, trying to balance out the inflation issue. So now your interest rate has went up. So therefore, the money you borrowed to try to cover the living expenses you couldn't afford is now costing you more to borrow. So if the interest rate is now where it used to be maybe 2, 3, 4% on a common vehicle, home, or something you were purchasing, now it may be 7, 8, 9, 10%. That's not good. Think about that. If you're doing a 30-year fixed rate mortgage on a you know, a $300,000 or $400,000 home, and then all of a sudden that $300,000 or $400,000 home should have cost $150,000, but now you're having to borrow it, and now you're having to pay 8% instead of 3%. That home that originally was probably a $150,000 home that you bought for $350,000 or so, now it's going to cost you $700,000 or $800,000 by the time you pay it off. That hurts the middle class. Inflation is one thing that they caused. Interest is one thing that they're pushing to try to fix the one problem they caused. Both are not helping because both are not really curving each other like they're supposed to. They're supposed to work against each other. Interest goes up, inflation goes down. If that's happening, it's doing it very slowly, and it's costing the American people. Again, the money you're purchasing is costing you more to borrow it now. So the money you have, it's not going as far. Money that you're having to borrow is costing you more to borrow. That's two ways they're seizing your money. Now let's talk retirement and Social Security. This one makes me a little upset. So by law, we have to put money in Social Security that pretty much people that are millennials or younger may not even see, because the Social Security system is has been so defrauded and so manipulated, and also almost like a Ponzi scheme. And the government is borrowing against it, so therefore it's struggling. Now here we are, we're having to fund Social Security because we have to. The people now who's taking Social Security needs it, and that should be the case. The problem with that is if the money that they've paid in had to go pay for the ones who were older at that time. So you see, it's a domino effect. We will never see the money we're actually putting in Social Security because it's meant to take care of the ones that are needing it now. That is basically a Ponzi scheme. That is not good. So is it unfair to the ones that's taking Social Security now? No, absolutely not. They paid into the same system too. But that's a broken system. If we keep paying into a system that is not working, that's what government does. They tend to say, well, this didn't work, so let's throw more money at it, and maybe all of a sudden it'll work. Well, no, the ones that cause the issues are going to keep on causing the issues because you didn't fix the problem. It's like me having a leak in a pipe and saying, well, I'm just going to turn the water off. Well, the water's turned off, however, the pipe is not fixed. So every time you need the water and you turn the water back on, there's still a leak there. So if we have a problem in that system and the way it's set up, the more money we throw at it, or the more times we have to use it, or the more things that we're doing, it's not making any better because no one's come up with the solution yet. We put in money through retirement or 401ks that you can only put a certain amount in per year, because government tells you can't put everything in it, you can only put a certain amount in it, to then hopefully be enough to cover expenses when we do retire, with not depending on Social Security because we don't know if it's there, and if it is, it may be so low compared to what we've actually paid in. So now retirement is going out of our check daily or weekly or monthly, depending on how you're getting paid, and it's going into a stock market that's been manipulated, that is seeing great times but is seeing worse of times. Now for people that are retiring years ago, they may have saw great growth in the stock market. For the people who are retiring now, when they saw 20% loss in the market, that's unfair to them. So they were made to invest because their bosses made them, because they got incentivized from the government to do the 401k plans, to then turn around and for them to invest, and then all of a sudden when it comes to actually retiring, their money's half of what they thought it was, or their money is 20% less than what they thought it was. Then all of a sudden maybe you don't need it. Maybe you're like, you know what, I'm gonna keep on working, I don't want to retire yet. Now there's a policy to where your 401k will be taxed if you don't pull it past a certain age. So if you don't start drawing retirement automatically, there's repercussions. So they'll start charging you penalties. So is that your money or is it their money? Now say for instance you've been given all this money, you've been putting in your 401k, your Roth IRA. Well, if all of a sudden you just need your money that you put in there, and all of a sudden if you need it, not only do they charge you your tax, okay, then they charge you a penalty to take your own money out. Is that not a little crazy to you? So all the while, it's my money I'm putting in there, and it's costing me to actually withdraw it if I ever need it. I know budgeting comes in, and I know we don't need to pull off our retirements. Understandable. But where does it get to the point where we realize that our money is not our money because it's having to be used for all these things, to cover inflation, to cover interest, to cover retirements, to cover other people's Social Security? Not that I'm against any of these things, but the problem is there's no solution to the problem. We're still spending like crazy. The interest rates are still going to be climbing because we're spending like crazy, so they can't get a hold of the inflation. Retirements are still struggling, and there's no secure retirements. I mean, look at pensions. Pensions, there were some pensions invested in FTX. There was pensions invested in places like BlackRock. Do you actually think they're doing everything they can to make you money? No. Look at the UK when some of their pension funds started really tanking, and they had to go back in and basically do emergency to put it back up. Inflation, interest, retirements, Social Security, those things don't hurt the upper class of folks because they're not having to depend on some of those things. They're probably not getting a typical W-2. They're not investing just the minimals in their retirements because they have other businesses and other assets that they're investing in. They're not worried about their Social Security because they probably will never see it and don't really care to utilize it because there's other ways that they can make money. Now, I'm not dogging that out. I think that's a great thing. If you've been blessed to have great funds, awesome. So now do you see how the middle class is the one that gets these effects? Let's jump into a few more things. Taxes. Now, taxes, everybody hates paying taxes. But now you're taxed federally and state. You have two income taxes. You know, we talked about Medicare and Social Security, those things. So then you have your net income. You bring your net income home, and then you're turned around and you're charged at the bank to put your money up. You go to get gas, and there's the gas tax on your gas, so that's cost you an extra few cents, 20, 30 cents per gallon. Not only are you taxed on the food, because of inflation and interest in the food providers to get that there, and the fuel surcharges that they had for the diesel trucks and the diesel trains that now they're having to pay overages for. The bosses and the grocers are not going to take those expenses. They're going to pass it down to you. So now you're paying taxes, and then you're paying overage for your food, which we've seen. Look at eggs, look at milk, look at any of those things. Everyone knows their grocery bill is higher. And then you still have a little money left. And then all of a sudden, guess what? You've paid off your home one day. The home is not really yours because you're still having to pay property tax on it. My property tax is terrible. I hate paying property tax. It makes me furious because I've worked hard to pay for this land, and now I'm taxed every year on it. For what? So we don't use the school system. We homeschool, and I'm not saying I'm not opposed to infrastructure in schools, but there should be a category breakdown to where I'm not paying all this extra property tax or all this extra city or ordinance tax just for the heck of it. We always hear that taxes are going to help roads and bridges and fixing all these buildings. Well, every time we hear that, that's stupid enough that we believe it and we vote for these people because the roads and bridges and all that stuff still looks like crap and really never gets fixed. We may put millions of dollars towards this one bridge when there's 10 in this area that needs to be refixed, and for 10 years it's drug out, and every year they're going to tell you they're going to fix the infrastructure and get all that back working. So we're taxed more on property tax and city tax, and then we have all these other taxes. Think of death tax. Think of the estate tax. You've worked so hard, and maybe you have built up good money. Maybe you had a business. Well, all of a sudden you pass away or you die and your estate's worth more. Guess what? The government takes a big portion of it because it's taxable. Maybe you passed the exemption rate. Sad thing is the exemption rate is coming down. Well, the value of your house, the value of your business, the value of your land, all that is added up to your estate into your asset pool. With all those things are more than their exemptions that they keep dropping, by the way. They're keeping to drop that. They're dropping that rate. Seems like every year or two, the more they drop it, the more you're less exempt, the more your family will have to pay taxes. So let's wrap this up. Life for the middle class is always going to be hard. If you're living in the cities now, like when I go to cities and see some of the prices that y'all pay, and maybe even some left-leaning states, some of the prices y'all pay, it's even more than what we're paying in these rural areas or these right-leaning states. You better get a grasp on it. They're not going to quit spending. They're not going to quit taxing. And they may even give you more stimulus to make you feel like you're making money. Your job is not going to be able to pay you 7 to 8 to 10% a year raise. I mean, it just can't. It's impossible. So therefore, you're losing. Social Security people, if you're getting Social Security, I know Social Security just got a bump, and they should have. But the problem is, was your Social Security raise or your bump bigger than what you're paying at the grocery, more than the inflation? If it wasn't, then you got a big bump really to still be losing. And that's wrong. That's the wrong approach. It's sad that we have to rely on the government to regulate that. It's too much power. So the reason I say they're seizing your money is they already are. Through taxes, through interest, through inflation, through so many other means, and you don't even see it. And then all of a sudden we talk CBDC. So not only do you now see that they've taken a lot of your money, now they'll know where all your other money goes. Your indiscretionary money, or your discretionary money, or what you purchase. The only ways to fix this is you got to start buying assets. You got to start keeping some cash and using cash to buy things, so that way you have some things that maybe, you know, it's your personal, it's yours personally. No one else knows about it. We need to make sure that we are doing all that we can to put up real hard assets such as precious metals, maybe real estate, maybe buying some antiquities, investing in things that are real and tangible. And we know we're going to be paying real estate tax. We understand that, which I think is completely wrong. But if we learn to mitigate some of the issues that we're having with the seizing of our property and money, and we start buying some more assets, we start putting up some money, we start buying some precious metals, we start buying some things that are worth value, that are bartering. Food is another one. We start growing our own food so we're not having to buy as much at the store. Then we turn around and we can have a bartering system. And is those things going to work forever? May not. But it may make our government wake up and say, the American people and the middle class cannot be just dismantled. So just be thinking about these things. Sobering video, I know, and it's things that you probably already know and you've already talked about at your own home. But sadly, a lot of people do not see it and see how tough it is, because ultimately your money is leaving you. There's only one entity that's causing that. It's not the business down the road. It's not the gas station. And when we start realizing that stimulus is not what we need to do. More spending is not what we need. More control is not what we need. Digital currency is not what we need. We need independence and freedom from those things. So our money is our money, and we can do what we want with our money. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Give me your thoughts on this video. Definitely a little bit more sobering thought pattern for me today, but I want you to understand that that cow is valuable. I don't have to pay tax on that cow. That cow is mine. The F600 I have on my property, that old dump truck, it's valuable because I bought it at a good deal. It's not going up in price. It's an antique tag, so there's nothing that it's really costing me to sit here, but it can do work. So it brings value to me. So we have to find ways, and I know that's crazy, but we have to find ways that what can we buy that can bring us value that doesn't cost us excess money. Is it a cow? Is it an antique car? Is it precious metals? Is it self-defense items? What is it? So be thinking outside the box. It may be growing a big garden and you learning how to have food to then barter with. We've got to think outside the box, because it looks like they're taking all the money and we're going to be left with nothing. You have two classes, the lords and serfs, and I don't think that's the right approach for America. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless. Happy homesteading.